Hello, my name is Micah Rodriguez, and I'm here with my colleagues.
My name is Giana.
And my name is Hazel.
Okay, so we're standing here today representing the Justice League, a project of the Attic Youth Center's Education and Outreach Department, the Bryson Institute. The Justice League's goal is to address the ongoing injustice faced by queer youth of color within the systems that continue to negatively impact our lives. Which is why today we stand in front of you, not just representing ourselves, but of members of a much larger Black and brown, queer and trans youth community. Before we begin, I'd like to share a quote from Augusto Boal, which goes, "All human relations should be of a dialogic nature. Among men and women, races, families, groups, and nations, dialogue should prevail. In reality, all dialogues have a tendency to become monologues, which create the relationships oppressors oppressed." I share this quote because it is extremely important to commence the conversation to dismantle, reconstruct, and ultimately rebuild these systems to actually do what they were initially intended to do through collective dialogue as we heal from centuries' monologues.
I would like to share my section of our statement as a member of the Justice League, as a member of the Black and Brown youth community, and also as the only out transgender youth commissioner for the city of Philadelphia. Young people have immense power. Young people have immense power, yet youth in the city of Philadelphia, and particularly within the LGBTQ community, are being taken for granted. Far too many nonprofit structures in the city rely on Black and brown youth for funding, and yet do not hire us. When Black and brown adults are given positions in these nonprofits, they're often entry-level, underpaid, tokenized, and fired within the first few months.
That's what they do.
Even as a client, I walk into these nonprofits that claim to support me, and yet the leadership doesn't reflect me. The programming options only reflect the parts of me that are well-funded through the city. We receive subpar care for our physical and emotional health. Yet, for so long, Black and brown members of the LGBTQ community felt that we had to stay silent for the protection of a larger community. Far too long, we've been silent about nonprofit structures built to support us that actually diminish us. We attend meetings, listening sessions, and sit on panels to educate adults and youth serving systems about our experiences, and we do this all too often for free. A few months ago, I sat on a panel about LGBTQ youth homelessness. I shared my experience living on the street and navigating the shelter system as a trans woman of color. After the panel was over, I was standing outside, and one of the participants jokingly said to me, "I'm going to need you to get off the streets now." She was implying that me as a trans woman of color standing on the sidewalk in Center City is unsafe, and while she is right, she never asked if I had anywhere else to be. I had just spent an hour and a half explaining my story, and she still has not internalized that I was going to be sleeping on a park bench that night. She then went on to ask me for a recommendation for a good gay bar, and I had also already said in my story that I'm under 21. The reality is that one interaction sums up my entire experience in the neighborhood. White, queer, cisgender adults assume that the bars that they find are safe to be, and adults ask us to speak. So rarely do they listen.
I'd like to start off by saying, even after everything that has come to light as of lately, that I don't hate anyone. I am not angry. Honestly, I'm hurt. Walking through my daily life as a queer trans woman of color, I experience racism, transphobia, and misogyny. I go into bars and clubs in the neighborhood to escape the danger I face in the world as a transgender person, a woman, and a person of color. Since I turned 21, I've seen popular bars such as Eye Candy as a place to escape, a place to pretend that I am safe in this world, if just for a couple of hours. But lately, I've seen and heard things that haven't settled well with me. I am a person of color, yes, but I am also a person of color with a light complexion. Having a light complexion doesn't give me immunity from racism, but it does give me privilege and access. Amen. For example, once when at a bar in the neighborhood, a bartender started a conversation with me. Later, he rolled his eyes when a group of visibly black queer folks began to enter the venue. He turned to me clear as day and stated, "Great, now this riffraff." Another time, a bouncer turned a blind eye to my visible track leggings, but asked a black man behind me to leave because his pants were in violation of the dress code. The reality targeted and held to a different standard than white and white passing people, such as myself. Wealthy white gay men see the neighborhood as a place to start a business and earn revenue, but forget that this is a place that people go to escape homophobia, biphobia, transphobia, and yes, even racism, only to discover that it's not just alive here, but thriving. Over the summer, I would get excited to go to places like Eye Candy and see all my favorite bartenders, friends, and community members. Now I dread knowing that if I was to enter one of these establishments, I'd likely be thrown into a casually racist conversation from staff because they think I'm white. I dread knowing that cisgender people will likely invalidate my gender identity. I dread that because I am a trans woman of color, even walking down the street in the neighborhood is unsafe. This space was supposed to be somewhere to go to feel safe, but for many of us, the neighborhood is not a safe space. Just simply walking down the street in the neighborhood, I have been profiled by police for simply existing in a space that is supposed to be for me. The reality is I'm afraid that when I walk through the neighborhood, I'll be aggressively misgendered by police in the neighborhood. I've had police make sexual advances at me, assume that I was a sex worker because of my identities, and because when I was frisked, I had multiple condoms on me.
Today, we hope to impart that no person should be made to feel like their lives doesn't matter within the systems that are put in place to make us feel like we have access to safety within the nonprofit organizations whose missions are to support, to empower, and to protect, not to tokenize and exploit. Black and brown queer folks should be asked to do, shouldn't be used, Black and brown folks shouldn't be asked to do your work for you. No person should be made to feel like their lives do not matter at businesses whose missions are to support LGBTQ community, not to marginalize LGBTQ people of color. And these business owners should be held accountable. No person should be made to feel like their lives do not matter when the mission of the Philadelphia Police Department is to demonstrate excellence in policing by working in partnership with the community, not to instill fear in these communities. Given by the Police Department Directive 4.15. Does not save Black trans women from a deeply ingrained intersection of racism and transphobia. Once again, we hope that as we commence this conversation, it is not just more the same, but a true opportunity for dialogue, growth, and rebirth.